Today we are going to be talking about increasing understanding and acceptance of autism. So hopefully you'll learn something today about understanding and acceptance. And that's basically what Autism Awareness Month is all about. Got to see my emblem. I can't have my hair covering it up. So we're going to learn something, and we're going to talk about a little bit about increasing your understanding and acceptance. Hopefully you already accept, autism awareness and, people with autism as they are. But hopefully if you learn something or learn more about people with autism, it'll be easier to accept it. Because sometimes for a lot of people, they might think, right? They understand or know about autism, but then whenever they see an autistic person behaving the way they behave, or whatever their behavior is, they don't identify it as autism because really they don't know. So let's talk about it. So first, let's talk about dispelling some of the myths about autism. We're going to clear up some misconceptions. Autism looks the same as in everyone. That's not true. So what will happen is people will be out in public, and like I mentioned in yesterday's video, they'll see a child that is acting up and they'll just think, well, that child is spoiled. That child might be spoiled, or that child might be on the spectrum. Because let's just be honest, back in the day when we were being raised, when you were all over the place and you couldn't listen and you were whining and crying and your parents were like, sit down, and you weren't sitting down, you were just a bad kid. Remember, that was the label. So that's what we are conditioned to understand and believe as a society as a whole. Because that's what we were taught. A kid that doesn't listen, a kid that won't do what they're told is bad. You're just bad. You need to be spanked. That kid needs a smack. No discipline, no home training. But if you really don't understand, I saw a post the other day on one of the groups that I'm in, and they had screenshot a comment that somebody posted in Facebook land somewhere, of a woman who was responding, I guess, to an autistic video of a video of an autistic child that she saw. This wasn't a woman in the autistic group. This was someone in the autistic group who screenshotted a post from somewhere else of a woman who responded to an autistic child video. Okay, and the screenshot was, I wish I would encounter a child with autism. I would knock that autism right out of that child. I don't play that here. What does that even mean? And that's what I'm talking about. Because autism is just a bunch of bad. It's an excuse that society gives kids for being bad, for acting out. What? Or it looks the same as everyone, it looks the same in everyone. So since you have an autistic nephew and he acts this way, when you see another child acting and they have behaviors that are more extreme or completely different, in your mind, well, that can't be autism because my nephew over here has autism and it doesn't look anything like that. Like, one has nothing to do with the other. Autism is on a spectrum. It could be a number of different behaviors. You know what I mean? Autistic people lack empathy. That's not true. And I've heard this a number of times as well. Autistic people, the way I understand it as a mom of, a child who's, that I've raised, he's 25, is that they struggle with identifying emotions. That's what it is. And it's not that they're not emotional. They struggle with identifying their own emotions. So they definitely struggle with identifying the emotions of others. Does that make sense? And and autistic individuals can't lead independent lives. There are a number of adults leading independent lives. And what I want to help parents understand is that no matter what stage or where your child is on the spectrum, they can still lead independent lives if we get them the right assistance and the right help. Okay? No matter where your child is in their development, they can achieve great things in 10, 20 years. So don't give up on what their abilities can be, because it's always possible. Okay? The second thing we want to look at is promoting empathy for individuals with autism. We can foster compassion by helping others see the world from the perspective of the person with autism, or from people with autism, right? Walk in their shoes. Share real life scenarios of sensory overload, communication challenges, and navigating social situations, right? So yesterday I gave an example of a 4-year-old, maybe being on an airplane for the first time. If the pressure is building up in his head and his head is pounding, that's one thing. It might give him a headache. But for a person with autism, they have sensory issues. So it might cause his eyes to hurt. It might cause sinus pressure. It might cause jaw, you know what I mean? You don't know what's going on with him on the inside. If you could imagine, swallowing a balloon and that balloon blowing up in your head and having the pressure, he might have trouble seeing. He might have trouble hearing. He might have a migraine. It might affect his neck. His neck might be stiff. Being on an airplane might cause physical pain in every joint in his body. We don't experience that, okay? But he's experienced that, and he doesn't understand his emotions. He can't communicate what's happening to him. He can't tell his parents what's wrong. His parents can't. We need to walk in their shoes. You know what I mean? Recognize hidden struggles. Explain that difficulties with transitions, change, and overstimulation may be misrepresented as behavioral issues. Again, people with autism, children with autism, are not misbehaving on purpose necessarily. Because there are some times, like for my son, I got to the point when I was raising him that I know the difference between you not doing what you're supposed to be doing and whenever you really can't help it. You know what I mean? It's not his fault. He thinks he's doing the right thing. He's trying to do the right thing and he's not. Versus, you know better. And I know you know better. And for parents, there's a fine line. And again, give that parent grace. Give that parent grace. Parenting children with let's just be clear. Parenting is hard. Parenting is hard. Parenting children with zero diagnosis is hard. So, but just throw in a little autism, and that makes it parenting is hard, especially when you have multiple children, and especially for the parents who have multiple children with autism. Okay? Give the parents some grace, okay? And acknowledge their strengths and abilities. Autistic children, autistic people, adults, teens, they have strengths. Yeah, there are things they can actually do. You know what I mean? And that's what we want to. They have gifts and abilities just like the rest of us. So that's what we want to focus on. We don't want to focus on what they can't do or what the problem is or what's wrong with the. We need to fix. Let's talk about their greatness, because let me just tell you this, and this is something you may or may not realize. People with autism know they have autism. The last thing they need is to be treated like something's wrong with them. Like, oh, something's wrong with you because you have autism. I made this statement before, how whenever you tell a stranger or tell somebody for the first time, like, oh yeah, my son has autism, and they go, oh. Like, that's the most horrible thing in the world. And I'm looking at him like, he's not going to die because he has autism. Don't treat him like something's wrong with him because he has autism. Now, I understand that maybe that response comes because you're having empathy for the parent. You're being sympathetic because you know that that's a hard diagnosis. It's hard to parent. Maybe that's the response. But a lot of times, I feel like parents know what I'm talking about. You feel like they're like, "Oh, your child's never going to amount to anything. Oh, they're not going to ever be able to do anything good." Like that's what it feels like. You know what I mean? No, my son is great. You know what I'm saying? He has autism, but he's great. He's still smart. He still has strengths and he's not here right now. It's Tuesday afternoon and he's downtown Atlanta somewhere. When I say somewhere, I really mean that. I don't know where he is. He'll be back. He'll catch some buses and trains home. But you know what I mean? Like but we need people to try to understand, And the third thing is that we want to reduce stigma and discrimination. Okay? We want to challenge those negative labels, right? We want to address the damage caused by labeling individuals as difficult and dangerous. Don't treat my son like he's difficult. Don't treat my son like he's dangerous, because he's not. And that's my biggest struggle. That's my biggest fear whenever he leaves this house. That's what I try to teach him whenever we're in public. Don't stand too close to people, because your movements, people will misunderstand your movements, and if you're too close to them, they feel threatened, they feel fearful. And I don't want anybody to say he tried to, because his movements and his behaviors are non-traditional. For them, they're awkward, and they're like, what he's trying to, he's not. He has autism. So sometimes his movements are quirky. But that doesn't mean he's difficult or he's dangerous. Highlight the harm of bullying and isolation. Don't isolate him just because he's different. And don't try to damage his heart or his self-esteem just because, he's not like you or the other people in your group. So the cool thing about Georgia State University's campus is that they have created this environment of inclusion for the kids who are in the special needs program that he's in. So, he has student ambassadors that he hangs out with and eats lunch with, and navigates the campus with. Actually, he's completing his 3rd year at Georgia State, so he doesn't need anybody to navigate the campus. I need him to help me navigate the campus. I don't know that campus. I've been on that campus a handful of times because I didn't need to be. So every once in a while when I do go on to the campus, I don't know where I'm going. I don't know what building is where. I don't know where the office is. I'm like, Hassan, you got to show me right? But I don't want my son to be treated differently. And that's every parent's biggest fear, right? And empower families and caregivers. Like, families need to be empowered anyway. Families feel isolated. They feel, alone. They feel like they need support anyway. Families are used to being isolated. When you're at the restaurant, when you're in a public place, they're used to being pointed at and stared at and judged. Families are used to that. So when you can give a mom who's struggling with her toddler a helping hand or a kind word or a smile, you know what I mean? Empower those families, empower those parents, okay? So that's what we wanted to talk about today. And like I said, all this week we're going to talk about autism awareness and how you can be helpful, and what you can learn about being aware, and how you can spread positive autism awareness, especially during this month of autism awareness. Okay? So I hope you enjoyed this video. Like this video for me and share this video with someone you know can utilize this information. And I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.